Okay, say something.
My name?
Yes.
My name is...
oh, it's good?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're ready to start.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My name is K. Endo. Last name is ENDO. I was born in the same location that I live on 43rd and Railroad Avenue. I was born September 26, 1933.
Wow.
So I celebrated my 89th birthday.
Congratulations. And your parents lived in Milwaukee already?
When they got married, they first started their farming in Gladstone.
Oh.
Right next, you know where the radio station was at? They got the radio tower.
Yes, I do.
In that area.
Okay.
And then in I think about 24, 25, they moved to where that location we're at now. And we rented the property from the Hosley family.
Nice. Where did your parents come from?
My dad was from Sendai, which this is all in northern Japan.
Northern, okay.
And my mother was from Fukushima City.
So they met over there?
No, it's like a war, not like the war bride or
okay, but it was sort of an arranged.
Arranged, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was 20 years younger than my dad.
Oh, wow.
And my dad passed away in March of 1942.
Oh my goodness. Is that right before the war?
Right after the war started.
Oh,
and
right during it. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason he passed away was he had high blood pressure and he liked to drink sake. And they didn't have medication in those days. Right. So it was just a matter of time.
Sure. And so you started school here in the first grade in Milwaukee?
Yes. I had Mrs. Barnett was the first grade teacher. And geez, I can remember like Don Sherholtz and Jerry Kelso and Whitehead. I forgot Diane. I forgot her first name. But there was that picture you had. There's a handful of us.
Yeah, nice. The ones on the steps, yeah.
Yes, right.
That's great. And so you're going to grade school and you have friends, I assume.
Yeah.
What did you do? Just were you involved in sports after school or?
No, in grade school you didn't do too much of that.
Oh, not back then?
Yeah, and we used to walk from where we lived all the way down to the grade school.
Yeah.
How far was that?
It's about a mile and a half.
Yeah, they're on 42nd here.
43rd, I thought.
43rd.
I'm sorry, 43rd. So that's quite a ways.
Yeah. Well, we got down to here, and Railroad Avenue actually went up another block and then went parallel the railroad track.
Right, all the way, huh?
Yeah.
Instead of the ending it as now.
But we never walked that way. We walked on the railroad track because there was a double rail at that time. And the railroad company didn't say too much. So we did that. We walked that.
Nice. So you're going to school, and how old were you when the war started?
And when the war started, we were here. And one interesting thing, the Oregon flower growers had dedicated their building on Grand and Stark.
Okay.
And the date was December 7th, 1942. 41.
41.
The day of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And there was, the Coita Greenhouse was part of the corporation, and there's I don't know if you know the Itami's, they had a Kern Park flower shop.
It sounds familiar.
and they were a member of the deal, of the corporation.
Okay.
So that was kind of amazing.
Yeah, wonderful. And then did somebody come knocking on your door and say, you know, you got to go to this camp, or what?
No.
What happened?
No, my uncle Q-Tower Nakamura, he was taken in because he belonged to the Ancestral Club in Portland, and he liked to read, so he liked the literature, and the members in that organization, most of them were picked up and put into detention camps.
Oh.
And he ended up in Missoula, Montana, and then they had a work crew that went to Kuski, Idaho, and Kuski, Idaho was in the middle of what is now the Lewis and Clark Highway.
Oh.
And they had quite a few people that volunteered for that. And then, since he was a good boy, he was released and he came to Minidoka.
Oh, to your camp.
To our camp.
Well, do you remember how it was that you and your parents went to the camp? Did people come and get you and take you there, or did you get a letter that said you have to report?
Well, what happened, the people in Milwaukie had to go to the Gresham Fairgrounds, and Mrs. Hosley volunteered to drive us there.
Oh.
And we only could take two containers with us.
For the whole family or each?
Just each.
Okay.
You know, but when you're small, you can't carry one. One was hard.
Yeah.
And we went to the Gresham Fairgrounds, and then from there we went to the Pacific Livestock Exposition Center,
Oh my goodness.
which is now the Portland Convention Center.
Oh, really? So it was here?
Yes, and we were there from May till August of '42, and then we were transferred to Minidoka, Idaho. And Minidoka is 16 miles northeast of Twin Falls.
Okay.
And we were there for 2.5 years. And 2 years, and then we were able to go to Ontario, Oregon on a seasonal leave, the family. And we had a real good friend, the Saito family, that lived in Ontario. They moved to Ontario in 1934. And the reason they knew, because Joe, the oldest son, said it was one of the first time they drove over the Blue Mountain that there was no snow in February.
Oh wow.
So he always remembered that.
Yeah.
And they were real good friends of ours. They farmed, you know where the Carver Bridge is?
Oh yeah, I do.
And they farmed below there, and that was before they had the dam. And they got flooded every year.
Who's there now? It's one of the Italian families farming there now.
Calcanos are there.
Calcanos?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My family farms out there too.
Oh.
They have a lot of different farms all over.
What was your last name?
Siri.
Siri. Yeah, Siri's all over.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, they had that land on before you hit Borean, right?
Yes, but they started out in Milwaukie too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're, how many years does that mean? You as a boy, you went in at what, 10?
I was, no, it was 8.
You were 8 when you went in, and how old were you when you came back home?
Was 10.
10.
10, 11. It was.
Okay,
40.
so 2.5 years, 3 years.
3 years.
There.
We were gone for 3 years.
Okay, so how was it? What do you remember? How was it for you during those 3 years?
For us young people, it was like going to a summer camp.
Oh.
No, because we didn't. When we ate with our peers, and because the folks, a lot of them were cooks and dishwashers, and some, worked as carpenters.
Oh, I see.
And other things, so the family was really disrupted in those terms. And so we had a mess hall where we did not cook. And my mom was a cook's helper, and my brother Ben was a dishwasher. And he later went out and worked as a grease monkey out at, I don't know if you know about the Anderson Ranch Dam in Idaho.
Don't say it again, the Anderson.
Anderson Ranch Dam. It was at the time the largest earth-filled dam, and quite a few of the Japanese from Minidoka went there, and they helped construct the dam.
Oh.
And he worked as a grease monkey.
And you just played, huh?
Yeah, and one of the funny stories that he had, they had a shortage of food for the cattle, and the cattle graze out in the range in Idaho. And so they needed to feed the cattle, so they had the hay bale, and they wanted somebody to throw it out the back end of the airplane.
Oh.
And they volunteered him, and they tied a rope around him.
Oh.
So he wouldn't fall out of the plane.
Oh my God.
And to the day he died, he swore he'll never get on the airplane.
I don't blame him.
I'll bet.
That's why he never traveled very much.
Oh, I don't blame him.
Yeah, that's enough to scare you.
How many siblings did you have? How many brothers and sisters?
Well, we had my oldest brother, and then there was 4 sisters in between. There's Akiko, and after we went to Ontario, she come back. She went to New York City, and she went to seamstress school. And she got a job with she come back to Portland, and she got a job with an independent dressmaker, and then she went to work for Best, and then that became Nordstrom's.
Oh, wow.
And
impressive.
And in 90,
Around.
Right, she was voted the Employee of the Year.
Oh, nice.
That's of the whole company.
Wow.
Impressive, yeah.
And
and so you had 4 sisters.
Yeah, and then the next one was Costco, and she got married to Minhara, and they lived in the Gresham area. The next one was Masako Masi. She married Dan Hinatsu, and Dan worked for Myron Franks in the advertising department. He was an artist.
Wow.
And the youngest sister, she's a year older than I am. She was just here on a visit. But after she got out of high school, she volunteered in the WAC, Women's Army Corps. And she got married, and they settled in, they were at Fort Hood, Texas, and they had 2 girls and a boy, and the 2 girls got educated in Texas, so they said, Mom and Dad, you have to stay here. So they first lived in Temple, Texas, and then they moved to Dallas, Fort Worth.
Texas, well, that's good.
Yeah. So that's where they live, and that's one of the very few people that's still alive.
Oh, yeah. So it's good that you see each other once in a while.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about your grandparents? Did you ever meet them?
No, I did not. They were here in Milwaukie, and then they went back to Fukushima.
They were here for a visit, or did they?
No, they were here with my mom. And they were here they had a farm orchard in Fukushima, and so they moved back. And my uncle was here, and he worked for Watanabe Brothers.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And
so, you came back and you went to school. Was everybody pretty much fine with it? Did you get harassed at all?
No, I got to compliment the people in the city of Milwaukee, and I'll go down the list. There's the Bernards, you know them, Joe and Joseph. They were very good to us. The Milwaukie Lumber Company.
Good.
Ralph and Bud Cooper at Cooper's Meat Market. And Red Bachelor at Price Right Grocery. And Prairie Pharmacy. And Milwaukie Pharmacy. And the First State Bank of Milwaukie. Mr. Zanders. And then later Bob Franz.
They're nice people.
Yeah. And Mr. P, I can't remember his first name. And one good thing he did when my dad died in March of 42, he was cremated, and then they put him in a brass urn, and he told my mom, and says, "I'll hold that urn for you." And when we got back, we went after the urn, and at that time we were living at Coita's greenhouses. And the first thing I went with her, and the first thing he said, she said they lived in Wichita, and he says, "What's Wichita?" Because he was from Wichita, Kansas. And he gave her the urn, and he never charged her anything for holding it. So the people in Milwaukie were exceptionally fine people.
Oh, that's good
and then
to hear.
one more, and this was Hosley. They had the old furniture, that old building.
Yep, I remember.
By the junior high school. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's some other ones I probably missed, but those are the principal ones.
Well, it's good to hear.
One more, Bill Roberts. Do you know who he was?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
He had the barber shop.
Oh.
Bill's barber shop. It was behind Prairie Pharmacy.
Okay, I remember seeing
between that and the old restaurant,
right.
Next Fit.
Right, yeah.
He was in between there. And he was very nice to us. Yeah.
So you grew up and you went to, did you go to Milwaukie High School?
Yeah, well, went to junior high school.
Mm-hmm.
We were living at Coita and went to the 7th and 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And then high school, we moved over here where we're at now, and I completed the 4 years. And then after that, I went to Oregon State for 4 years.
OSU, okay.
And then it was Oregon.
What did you major in?
I was in floriculture,
Okay.
And I was at home for a year, and then I got drafted.
Oh, wow.
When I was stationed at Fort Lewis for 2 years.
Well, what was that? The Korean War?
Korean War?
No, after the Korean War, 1956.
Oh, so you were in between there.
Yeah.
And they were still drafting then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, they drafted till, it was Mark Hatfield that really pushed for the no draft.
Mm-hmm.
Him and a lot of other people.
Yeah, I mean, he was on the Armed Forces Committee.
But that was, what, 72 they quit the draft?
Yeah, during the...
right after the...
After the
Vietnam conflict, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when we went in, we had to serve in the reserves. So I was in the reserve for 2 years, and the only thing that was good, that we got to go to Coronado, California, which is across the bay from San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It was an amphibious base, naval base, and I was in the Army. I was in a transportation company, so we were supposed to coordinate between them. And that was really nice. Went down there for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's worse places for
Yeah, we got to go to
for a young man to be.
got to go to Tijuana.
Oh, yeah. And then, so then you came back and you started working at
the greenhouse, and then we did that till about 95, 96.
So that was most of your adult life that you was working.
Well, no, it was earlier than that. It was in 86. And I used to help out during the summer at the Oregon Flower Market. When the market manager took his vacation, I helped out.
I'm sorry, what market?
Oregon Flower Growers Market.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then we decided we better give up the greenhouse because we were too small. And I went to work for the Oregon Flower Growers Market. I was a market manager. And then they built a new building down at Swan Island, and I was a floor manager. Then I retired from there. So, been in the flower business most of my life.
Yes. Sounds like it.
Did you marry? Did you
No, I was never married.
Okay.
Never had a girlfriend.
Oh,
Well, as a woman, I'll say it's our loss.
yes.
I got to tell you an interesting thing of what happened during the war. Not for me, but from the people from camp did. The younger ones that went out and helped the farmers pick potatoes and sugar beet. And then, you know what sugar beet was used for?
Well, I think a lot of things, wasn't it? During
One of the prime one was for ammunition.
Oh, that one I didn't know.
Yeah, it was making the powder. And they claim that the Japanese people that went out and helped save the farms in Idaho and then Eastern Oregon and then Utah.
Yeah, I don't think on the West Coast there was a lot of hate going on. It seems to me everybody was just too busy trying to stay alive.
Yeah, well, you know, in Los Angeles, I mean, you know, the bigger places had problems, and then of course a lot of the Japanese had big farms in Central California, and when they left, the farmers that were left, they felt real good because they got all that land, and a lot of that land was started by the Japanese. And same way with Hood River. But a lot of the Hood River people own their own property.
And it was taken when they left, huh?
Or if you had the property, you could put as long as a person was over, I think it's 21 at the time. But there weren't that many that old.
Oh.
In the Asian Exclusion Act in 1924 stated that they couldn't own land. The East Asia, that's the first generation.
Well, I had heard that back east and some other places, the people stole the land.
Yeah. Basically. Then like Watanabe's, they had a friend, a Japanese friend, he was older, Roy Yokota, and the property was under his name. And then when he returned it, that's when one of the Yoshimi, there's Watanabe brothers, there was a Watanabe and two Yoshimi families that consisted of the Watanabe brother farm. And there was some division between the family, and one of the Jack Yoshimi left, and Roy Yokota wanted to give all the farms, let the Yoshimi's be the chief, but then the Watanabes won out.
Okay, well, somebody had to win that, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to talk about Milwaukie. You know, the other parts, like the events going on. Did you take part in a lot of those?
Oh, not too many, because we were working a lot of the times at home, and then we didn't really get involved too much in the community. Oh,
you didn't go to the festival days?
We always went to those kind of things, but I really wasn't involved in that. What happened was I was more affiliated with the Japanese organizations.
Was there a temple, a Buddhist temple?
Yes, it was Watanabe. They built a building And it burned. I don't know if you knew that it was a big building. It burned down. It was set up as a Japanese school before the war, and then they had the people from the surrounding area. It was a pretty big school. And then after the war, nobody wanted to continue that, so they converted that into a church. And it was one of the Buddhist religion that the Watanabes were involved in.
And where was that located?
Pardon?
Where was that located?
You know where on 42nd, where I don't know if you know where the Watanabe land was.
I don't know.
It's between Railroad Avenue and then go up to, you know where Rio Vista is?
Right.
You used to go down there, and that was their land.
Ah, okay.
All that land up there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
They had the old house they got rid of, and then they built the Yoshitomis, you know, when they built the freeway, they bought their house and they moved it over. But Mr. Watanabe was, he's a carpenter, but he took shortcuts.
There's the yellow house there just right off of 42nd?
Who's that?
The Watanabes?
No, there's nothing left.
Nothing at all, okay.
They had greenhouses, and then they had the old house, and then they had a kind of storage house and a boiler room, and then they had a great big greenhouse that went back.
In the temple?
And the temple.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next door neighbor was the Yoshizawas.
What other Japanese organizations were you involved in?
I was involved with the Organise Veterans and the Epworth Methodist Church, United Methodist Church. That was Japanese. And I was commander at one time with the vets, and then I belonged to the Japanese Ancestral Society, and I was president for 3 years.
Wow.
And then also the Portland Japanese American Citizen League, JCL. But I became a life member. And because the reason for that was their dues were about $60 a year. And this guy was selling the life membership was $1,000. He said, you got to buy one for $500. So I bought it for $500 and said, if you live 10 years, you
already paid for it.
Already paid for it. Well, I've probably gone 30 years now.
There you go.
So you got your money's worth there.
Yeah.
So do you belong to the American Legion here in Milwaukie?
No, I didn't. You know, there were some American Legion during World War II resented the Japanese, and Hood River was a bad place, so they took the names off the honor roll at Hood River, and they were finally restored. There were 16 members, and there was one interesting one that was killed in action. He was in what they call the MIS, Military Intelligence Service. Oh. And they did a lot of interpreting. I got to tell you the story on that.
Sure.
And the group, the Japanese had all these information written in Japanese, and they interpreted it because they didn't code it. They didn't think the Americans could read Japanese.
Most of us can't.
And they Battle of Midway, the Americans were set for them because they knew everything they were going to do. And I can't remember the name, the general that was assistant to MacArthur said that the MIS saved 2 years in the war because of the intelligence.
Great. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Were you part of that military intelligence group?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and then, well, I'm going to tell you the name. One of the names on the plaque in Hood River his name was Frank Hachia, and he was a MIS, but he was actually on the battlefront. Oh. And so he used to go, peek around, and then A couple times he went behind the enemy lines. And one time he went behind and he said, the commanding officer said, anybody come back we don't shoot at, and then he was shot by a friendly fire. And that was one of the sad stories.
Oh, yes.
But there's some interesting stories on that. There's one sergeant was in Marauders. They were in Burma, and he knew Japanese, so he was attached to that group. And it's a funny story. He said he went and listened to the Japanese, and they happened to be from the same area that he was from, and he could interpret it. Well, prior to World War II, the Japanese had a lot of slangs.
Just like Italians.
Yeah, just like here, and you couldn't. One area you couldn't understand, and he knew the language, and then he went up and what they were going to do, and then he got up on the telephone pole and got some of what they were doing over the wires.
Oh, wow.
And then when this is his story, when the Japanese troop moved forward, they didn't fire on them until they were at real close range, and then they opened fire. And so they were going retreating, and he started hollering in that dialect to charge ahead.
To go back.
To charge ahead.
Yeah, and he was finally put into the Hall of Fame.
Wow. Oh, good.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you still go to things with those different organizations that you're a part of?
Yeah, what happened 2 years ago, I got cancer in lymphoma. That's up here. And, and I'm not able to drive over just limited area.
I see.
So I kind of do that. But before then, I used to do all the functions. We had a graduation banquet I was able to go to because we had it up at Monarch at Sunnyside. I could drive up there. But the other organization, I'm on the advisory board of the Ancestral Society.
Oh, nice.
And things like that. So, and I hadn't been able to go to the Epworth Church. And then also they have a senior, well, it's not a senior, it's just a hot lunch program. And I have a friend that picks me up once a month to go to that.
And where is that hot lunch program?
It's at Epworth United Methodist Church. It's on 28th and Madison.
Oh, okay, in Portland.
Portland, southeast.
Right.
So it's a little bit too far for me to drive. And it's just things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've been member of the Vets, and of course the JCL, I'm a life member.
Yeah. What else do we want to say?
I was just curious about the the Japanese Ancestral Society. Did you go back and check on genealogy? Were you just mostly your own families or other?
No, we did not. We didn't do. They have. I don't know. It used to be the Oregon Legacy Center, and they changed that to the Japanese American Museum of Oregon. We know about that,
right.
And they do a lot of that type of work. And also, I don't know if you know about Densho in Seattle. DENSHO, and they do a lot of archiving. And the legacy, the museum sent all their the deals they had, the films. They sent up there, and they archived it so you could get a hold of it.
Oh, nice.
And I was interviewed by the Manzanar. That's another Manzanar with another camp, and they were up here and they interviewed me and a bunch of us, and so we were in the Densho library.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you want to look us up,
All right, all right. So, Manzanar, was that in California?
Manzanar was in Owens Valley. That's on the east slope of the Sierra Nevada.
Right, okay.
It's well, Mount Williamson is the biggest mountain. It's about 14,000 feet.
Mm.
And then you just go down and there. That was, Owens Valley was a Los Angeles County used that for their water deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What time is it? 10 after 4.
Okay. As I said, we have somebody coming at 4:30.
Yeah.
Right.
No
what
problem.
other questions we have?
I think I'm kind of done.
Okay.
You said you're not really, you didn't really take advantage of a lot of the things that they did in downtown Milwaukee, like the festival days, Columbus Day Storm. You went through that?
Yes, we did. We lost one of our greenhouses.
Oh, a whole house.
Oh, it was a small one. It's an old one.
Oh, I see.
What did you grow in your greenhouses? Mostly florist type?
Well, yeah, we raised a lot of bedding plants. And one of our chief customers was Cash's Garden Center.
Okay. And like poinsettias in winter?
No, we
Never did that.
we did it. We were just bedding plant, and then we raised cup mums in the fall.
Right.
What a great job.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing this as a celebration for Milwaukee's 120th anniversary as a city in, what was that, 1905?
1903.
1903, right. 1903. 1905 is
Yeah.
Rotary.
Yeah, I was involved
So-
in the
And the 100th?
no on for the 80th anniversary when we were incarcerated. For the city of Milwaukee had a decoration.
Right.
I can show you on the.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I want to be able to take some pictures and get some things. So I'm wondering if you can just say in your own words, happy anniversary to Milwaukee. Right.
Well,
into the
happy
camera.
anniversary, Milwaukee, for your 120th birthday.
Excellent.
And don't drink too much sake.
Very good. I like it. Tell us more about your mom making sake.
Well, it's cheap. It's rice.
Right.
And then they use a starter. And then they just put it. It was in the basement, and then they dripped it out, and it come down.
So
She never drank.
Like a still or something.
Huh?
Like a still?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had, my dad had friends that like sake.
That's why she made it. Huh?
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and when you go in Japan, not that way now, but when I went the first time in '86. I learned a lesson.
Yes.
You tell them you don't drink.
You tell them you don't drink?
Yeah, back in those days. You know why? Your cup is never empty.
Oh, so if you do drink, then your cup is never...
Yeah, my brother-in-law went, the second time we went, and he really he was really a good drinker. And he drank, and then...
Oh, dear.
We went to visit this. Well, in Japan, when you go, I don't know about nowadays, but in the old days, the first thing you did, you go to the cemetery.
See your ancestors.
Your ancestor.
Right.
Well, we went to the cemetery, and he was about halfway through, and he just about passed out.
Oh, dear. So how many times have you been to Japan?
3 times.
3 times. 86 was the first time.
Yeah, I went with the Oregon flower growers at that time. Went to Tokyo, and then to Hokkaido, Sapporo, and then went down to Kyushu, central, and then back to Tokyo. And the group went to Hong Kong, and I left the trip then and went to Fukushima to visit my cousins.
Cousins and family, right?
Yeah, and then then about 5 years later, went with my mom and sister, and then went with, then went again in 99. That was the last time I was there.
Nice.
Was there for 5 weeks.
5 weeks. That's perfect.
But it didn't cost us any lodging.
No,
Oh,
stayed
nice.
with everybody, huh?
Huh?
You stayed with family?
Yes. What costs lodging is my mom invited her. She had 3 sisters, all in their 80s,
Oh, wow.
and they went to a hot spring. They call them onsen, hot springs, and we were there for 3 days.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
And my
so
mom
nice.
paid for all of that.
Oh, did she? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then they bring the food in, and but I was with my sister, and we looked around. Yeah, and I had started back in the 50s. I don't know if you probably don't know what kokeshis are.
No.
They're dolls. I can show you a picture.
Okay.
Yeah,